Hey minions, welcome back to Stone Vision Media. As you all can probably clearly see, I am sleep deprived. And the reason for that being is the last few nights I have been up with this subject matter I'm going to speak on. The last few nights have been interesting. It's been kind of this this revelation, if you will. I have been dreading sort of the collapse of this nation and the darkening of this world we live in. And as a Christian man, I have a Christian perspective of our belief, if you will, that we are kind of towards the end. We're heading into the end days if we're not already there. So I have, in my heart, been sort of mourning because I have thought that I am out of time, that we're all out of time. Then God kind of revealed this new perspective to me, that we don't really know where we are in the timeline. No one does. The Bible states that no one knows, except for the Father, not even the Son. So, with that in mind, if we do have some time left, say we have a decade left, say we have 15 years, 20 years, what have you, there's work to be done, and there's things we need to prepare for. This is going to be a series. I'm gonna stay focused on this for a while. So a question that keeps coming to mind, not just to myself, but I think it's sort of in the zeitgeist, is America collapsing? Is it falling? The truth is, not yet, but it's fracturing. It's fragmenting. Those aren't the same thing necessarily. Collapse is fast. Collapse is obvious. Collapse looks like lights out. You know, collapse is just the end of everything, and I don't think that's necessarily what we're witnessing, even though it feels like that at times. What we're in right now is something slower, perhaps even more dangerous, honestly, because it's easier to ignore. We're in a decay here. We are becoming desensitized to this decay that we're surrounded by. Every single day, it's something new. Every single day, it seems like an event takes place that perhaps 5, 10, 15 years ago would absolutely shock us. And we'd probably come together and course correct. But that doesn't seem to happen anymore because we have become so accustomed to this chaos that is always just steadily growing and becoming kind of the American social norm. It's a fracture, right? A fracture means the structure sort of still stands. It looks familiar, but the pressure is uneven. It's uneven, and you can feel it, and everything's sort of shifting in this uncomfortable way, but ever so slightly. And we live in this continuous growing stress, right? This anxiety that's always pressing upon us. A fractured nation still functions, right? We still go to work. We still pay our bills. The grocery stores are still stocked. Police seem to show up still, to a certain extent. Elections still happen. So, sort of on the surface, everything is familiar still. Our systems are still in place. But the legitimacy is weakening. People no longer agree on what's true, what's moral, what's lawful. They don't even agree on what necessarily authority means, right? We don't share a common ground or a common story any longer. We are no longer united on any of these fronts. It seems to me the only thing we share is a rivalry in literal realities. The realities rival one another. We don't even live in the same plane of existence any longer. And when a country stops agreeing on literal reality, it doesn't collapse immediately. It splinters. The divide in this nation is just growing, and I think the tribalism on each side is becoming more and more extreme. And even within those, let's say, tribalistic groups, you're seeing splintering within them. Everything is sort of fracturing. Instead of this side and that side versus one another, left and right versus each other, it's going to become this tribe versus this tribe versus this tribe versus this tribe. Everything is splintering. And I don't foresee any sort of stop to this trajectory that we're on. There are three lines, if you will, of fracture. One is cultural fracture. Cultural fracture, that's sort of the breeding ground of where we're at, right? We've just been in this cultural war for a long time now. A long time. And we've taken notice of it more and more over the last 10 years, particularly when Trump came into office, because it seemed to become more obvious as how divided we actually were. But I argue that since 9/11, over 20 years now, we have been on this path of a cultural war. Everything over the last 2 or 3 decades has been building up to this. We no longer disagree on policy. We disagree on what being a human being essentially is, right? We disagree on family, gender, marriage, truth, God. These aren't surface issues. They're fundamentals of what a society is built upon. And when you can't find common ground on fundamentals, on the foundational work of a nation, of a culture, what do you have? You have nothing. You have nothing to stand on. And once foundations are contested, compromise becomes literally impossible. We function or live in absolutes Two is institutional fractures. People no longer trust anything. We don't trust the media. We don't trust the courts. We don't trust universities. We don't trust churches. We don't trust the government. Not because they're imperfect. I think we all expect some imperfections when it comes to these institutions, because they're human, or they're run by human beings. But because they're perceived as captured. You know what I mean? They're perceived as compromised. They've been overtaken by the agenda. And it's not just the conservatives that see the system in this light. It's also, ironically, the left wing. When institutions lose moral authority, the way we see it happening, they can still enforce rules to a certain extent, I guess, but they can't command loyalty. You know, we'll get arrested for disobeying the laws and the structure of society. We'll be punished for those things. But they can never install a loyalty in us. Everybody's rebelling against the system now. Thirdly, again, this is just what I believe, geographical fractures. America is no longer one cultural space, people. I'm sure you've noticed, even within your own towns, your own cities, there is no common culture, no common belief, something that again unites us, even on urban versus rural, right? I mean, I think that's very clear. Coastals versus interior, red zones versus blue zones. People aren't just voting differently, they're living differently. They're living differently. That's how this fragmentation began. We have no moral compass that we agree on. What used to weave us together has frayed, and we're sort of just the fibers, cast into the wind, and we're all going in different directions in this storm. And we sort of are just making up these rules for ourselves, and we're starting to govern ourselves and invent these ways of how we want to live. And none of us see eye to eye on this. That's why there is so much chaos in today's society, particularly in the West. Hey minions, Stone Vision Media needs your help. We are in our infancy here, so we are running a fundraiser. If you want to donate to the cause, you can do so by supporting any of the accounts listed below. Thank you for the help. This is why I don't necessarily see this going into a civil war as we have known it. This isn't civil war, at least not yet, because there is a difference. Like a civil war requires clear sides, right? Like if you just look at the American Civil War, there's very, very clear sides. Yes, it was a little more complicated than how we tend to simplify it, But still, the sides were very clear. It was the Union versus the Confederacy. It was the United States versus the South, essentially. Very clear sides. I don't think we have that in our current situation. Central leadership. I don't feel like we necessarily have that. Again, it's fragmented. There's a sort of triggering collapse of authority in Civil War. We don't really have that. What we have instead is withdrawal, disengagement, and we have these parallel systems sort of formulating in the background, sort of formulating quietly, these systems that are puppeteering things a certain kind of way. But I don't see it as obvious, right? I think in the past it was far more clear as to where things stood. People, to some degree, aren't really preparing to. They're not preparing to fight each other. They're preparing to separate. And that matters. That matters big time. Because fragmentation doesn't start with violence necessarily. Although violence usually becomes the end result, it starts with people opting out, if you will. It starts with people building smaller circles, which I myself have advocated for. Trusting fewer institutions. You really see that on the right-wing side of this, right? Smaller government. As smaller tribes, if you will. We believe in essentially community, not government. We want our own sovereign communities. Choosing community over country, which is wild to think about, because as a staunch conservative and patriot, I certainly never thought I would see a day where and this is sort of a confession, where I even am over community over country. I think the country's lost. Again, because of the fragmentation, because of the splintering. I don't think we could ever fix it. There's no fixing it. It would take 100 to 200 years to undo the damage. Literally. Now, with all that said, like, what's the real danger here? Like, what are we really facing here? I keep looking at my notes because there's so much to get through here, and I'm trying to simplify it for you all. The danger isn't tanks and soldiers in the streets. At least not yet. The danger is complacency, at least I believe. Most people think or hope that things will stabilize. They're in the mindset of things are bad, but they'll stabilize. That's what, if you look into history, if you look into world history, that's literally what every fractured society thinks. Fractures are repaired intentionally, or they break under pressure. Now, if the intent isn't there to fix our problems, this all collapses. This goes away. This breaks completely. And there is no government solution. There is no system glue or band-aid to put it back together. A legit crisis, like look what happened with COVID. We still haven't like gotten it together since then. We are still living in the fragmentation and the disaster that rose from the ashes of that fire, right? It doesn't take much. That's what people don't understand. They don't understand how fragile this thing is. This thing our forefathers put together. The reason why conservatives are so adamant about fighting for it is because we understand how fragile freedom actually is. History doesn't just repeat itself, it repeats itself loudly. It's a rhythm through time. And when you're in the thick of it, the beat seems quiet. But when you go and look at the pattern, we are smashing that drum. We're smashing it. Now, I'm not saying all this or bringing this all to light or trying to convey this message to you as sort of I'm not trying to hit you with this hammer of fear. I'm not fear mongering here, and I'm not saying it's completely hopeless. I'm saying all this so that we are prepared. Again, I believe we're in the end days. From my perspective, Jesus can show up anytime right now. He could show up right now. He could show up tomorrow. He could show up in 3 years. So we might not be here. But if we are, I want all of us to be prepared. And it's nothing to really fear. I know that sounds crazy after everything I just kind of laid out, but there really isn't anything to fear. There's no reason to panic. If we still have time, that means we have time to prepare for this and to organize and to come together and fight. And fight this wave of darkness. It's not a call to violence either. It's a call to clarity. It's a call to sobriety. It's a call to leadership. And that's where I start becoming really hopeful, because when systems weaken, character matters more than set powers. And leaders are being born right now as I speak. Voices are rising from the flames of this wildfire that seems to be burning everything. And that gives me hope, because they're voices dictated by the will of God. And it's inspirational leadership that believes in this country, that believes in the foundations of this nation, the Christian foundation, the fabric work of this nation, and they're willing to risk it all to get their voices out, to stand up and to fight. It's not all lost. It's going to change. But perhaps the change is a positive when you look at how dark things have become in the West. Perhaps this firestorm is necessary so that the old guard burns away. And just like a forest fire, new growth takes place from the ashes. This isn't hopeless. This is actually, if you're in God's channel, if you're in the will of God, if you believe in the creator of the universe, and in your heart, he is your father, this is kind of an exciting time to live in. This is an exciting time to live in because we're disbanding this system that keeps us locked into darkness. We're separating ourselves from the ugliness and the emptiness of the world. With all that said, I'm going to end this, as I always do, with the Word of God. Psalms 11, verse 3. And it states, "If the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do?" Not what can the government do, not what can politics do. There's no hope in those. It's what can the righteous do? And where do you stand? What can you do? I'm really glad you all could be here today. I really hope that this resonates with you. I really hope that you reflect on what I've said. And I'm going to be back to unwrap so much more here. There's so much more to talk about, and I'm excited to do so. But until then, speak truth.